Hi, I'm Heather, founder of The Life of O'Reilly, and this is Behind the Scenes. In the last episode, I spoke about how I started my business and the journey that led me to opening my boutique here in Liverpool. But there's one part of the story that I only touched on briefly. Ibiza. I've wanted to make this video for a while because people often ask me what it is I love so much about Ibiza. And honestly, I find it really hard to explain. The easy answer is pretty much like anyone else's. The sunshine, the beaches, the music, the nightlife. But the truth is, it's so much more than that. Ibiza has been a constant thread running through my life for the past 18 years now. And when I look back, I can see the influence woven through everything I've built, including the Life of O'Reilly. So I thought I'd share the story. My first trip to Ibiza was in 2008. I was 19 years old. I'd never been anywhere quite like it before. And the funny thing is, I didn't know what to expect. All I know is the moment I got home, I booked another flight to return the following month for the closing parties. That probably tells you everything you need to know. Since then, I've been back pretty much every year, bar COVID. I've genuinely lost count of how many times I've visited. I stopped counting after the 20th visit. I remember when I used to be employed full time, I'd carefully work out my holidays and my annual leave and planning at least 2, maybe 3 trips to Ibiza. People would always say to me, why do you keep going back? Do you not want to try anywhere else? And I did, I tried. So my first holiday ever was Magaluf, then Tenerife, and then Ibiza, and it was just totally different. I've also tried Marbella, Las Vegas, things like that, but it's just not the same. So I suppose the honest answer is because nowhere made me feel like Ibiza did. It's difficult to explain what I felt when I first arrived there, but the word that comes to mind is freedom. Not freedom in the obvious sense. Freedom to be myself. Freedom to be different, freedom to express myself. I just got a sense when I stepped off the plane that this was aligned to a version of me that I hadn't quite grown into yet. It's very hard to explain. I was always quite a shy person growing up, and I think my first Ibiza trip just totally aligned with a time when I was finding the essence of who I was and growing into the version of me that I hadn't quite met yet. And fashion was always the way I expressed parts of myself that I didn't know how to say out loud. And when I first arrived in Ibiza, I felt like for the first time, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, that being different wasn't something I had to apologise for. And it also wasn't something I needed permission for. I just felt like I could be totally and utterly myself there. On that island, I found creativity was celebrated, individuality was celebrated, and self-expression was celebrated. It sounds so cliche and cheesy, but I felt alive there. I get emotional again. I felt like my true self. Even now, 18 years later, it's not even when I step off the plane, it's the moment we come to the descent and I can see the island and I just feel like I belong, I'm home. There's a magic to Ibiza that's very difficult to describe. It's something you feel. Over 18 years, as you can imagine, I've collected more memories than I could ever fit into one video. One that off the top of my head is Zoo Project. Back then it was an abandoned zoo that was transformed into a day club. And one of my favourite parts of that was before we even got there, we'd spend weeks planning our outfits. I say outfits, well, it was more a costume for me because I would go all out. And the thing was then you go to Kiss My Fairy, get booked in for body paint, and a lot of people would just get animal print or tiger stripes, zebra, things like that. But mine was always very unique and I always had a very specific vision. I've been everything from a butterfly to a shark, both of which you wouldn't find in a zoo, but I took the theme and I ran with it. It was completely ridiculous and completely me. I'd found something where I could transform into an animal for the day and I could take a concept and make it into a brief, and yeah, where else could you go out dressed like a butterfly or a shark? It was just, I just loved it. Then there were the Radio 1 weekends at Ibiza Rocks. The first time we went to Ibiza, we stayed at Ibiza Rocks, but it was very new then. I can't remember what it was called before. Just been taken over by new management, and it was the new Ibiza Rocks. And again, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. You could watch DJs and acts from your balcony. Like, that was such a new concept then. One of the things, why am I getting emotional again, that I really remember is going out in the day, and there was like and Radio 1 was on like in the afternoon and the evening, and so went out maybe to the shop or whatever, and came back, and Florence and the Machine was sound checking on the stage, and I was just walking past like, wow, like I've never seen anything like this before. And what's crazy to think is that when I've gone on to do wardrobe for international pop stars, and like I'd hear them sound checking, and it's just such a strange like crossover, I suppose, that it was like a preview of what was to come. And yeah, I remember seeing Dizzy Rascal and Florence and the Machine singing You've Got the Dirty Love, and it was just like getting goosebumps thinking about it now, like her voice. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. Yeah, I remember standing there and watching it and thinking how incredible it all felt, and how it all felt part of something. Again, it's hard to explain, but it didn't feel random. I still remember the exact dress she wore, how beautiful it was, even like down to the movement of it. And when I got home, I asked my mum to recreate something similar for me. It's a really unique fabric, so I had like a version of it. Then there was Manumission. I only got to experience this once before it ended, and I just wish I could time travel back to Ibiza of time gone by. I'd never seen anything like it. 1 minute we were standing in a club, just all dancing, the music stopped, the lights went down, and then a catwalk, a fashion show just appeared in front of us. It's just theatrical, creative, chaotic, brilliant. Looking back, I can see exactly why I loved it so much. It wasn't just a typical party holiday, it was a whole new culture and something that opened my eyes into the person I was becoming, I suppose. Then there were the boat parties, the beach clubs, Pasha till sunrise, where we helped the cleaners sweep up at the end of the shift, at the end of the night. More stories than I can ever tell. All those stories have in common is how they made the world feel bigger. The funny thing is, when I first came home from Ibiza, it's like I'd seen an explosion of different styles, different eccentric fashion, things like that, and I wanted to walk around in a bikini and harem pants. I started wearing face jewels, feathers in my hair, just really experimenting. Looking back, it felt like a style awakening. Because Ibiza changed who I was, or changed my style, it just gave me permission to be who I really was and who I already was. For the first time, I seen fashion as more than clothes. I seen it as an expression, and I used creativity as sort of a lifeline, and it just made me feel more free, and that is how Ibiza made me feel. Almost immediately, I knew I wanted to channel that feeling into something. In 2009, so the year just after my first 2 trips to Ibiza, I started a Facebook page called Jackson's Fashion. I was really, really upset. Why am I getting upset again? With the passing of Michael Jackson. So that was where the name came from. Didn't really think too far into the future. I just thought, I'm going to honour him with that name. And yeah, that was how Jackson's Fashion was born. I think there's a whole other video in that, which we will get to another day. At first, it was handmade headbands, jewellery. I was making like earrings and necklaces from dream catchers and more like accessory led. Then it evolved into dresses, kaftans, and eventually swimwear, which, or pool party swimwear, as my mum would call posing swimwear. And looking back now, I can see the foundations of the life of O'Reilly already forming. This was all happening while I was working in a call centre, which I absolutely hated. I used to have a countdown on my desk next to me, and I would cross off each day to my next trip to Ibiza, even if it was like almost a year in the future. But those trips became more than holidays, they felt like a lifeline. from a life that it didn't feel like me. I'm getting upset again. They became reminders that there was a bigger life out there for me. Sorry. One of my proudest moments happened completely unexpectedly. I was in Playa d'Embossa and I spotted a girl through the crowd wearing a cover up, and I knew instantly it was one. It was Jackson's fashion design. I approached her. At first she had no idea who I was, and I just said, is this Jackson's fashion? And introduced myself. And she was so lovely and we got a photograph together. I was actually wearing a similar style at the time in a different fabric. Probably sounds like a small thing, but for me it felt huge. Something that was made on my kitchen table. I made it to the island that has inspired me. God, I'm gonna cry all the way through this. It's not that deep, but it is that deep for me. It happened again later on. Another time, I remember, I think I was sitting outside Cafe Mambo or on the Sunset Strip, but yeah, it's an Ocean Beach. It happened. It's nothing was like the first time. Now people tag me in pictures all over the world, but it's just something so serendipitous. Someone standing in the same vicinity as you, wearing one of your designs on the island that you love. It's just, I'll never forget the first time. One of the biggest turning points came through Sin Sundays, more specifically Chris Wright and Billy Clements. Chris and Billy gave me at the time opportunities I couldn't give to myself, and I probably wouldn't because I'd be too scared to go after them. Together they encouraged me to create my first swimwear collection. So it was just pieces before that, and they said create a collection and we'll collab on it. So they'll put the Sin Sundays name to it, and the fact that they trusted in me to do that spoke volumes. Getting upset again. So they believed in me enough to trust me. They booked a photographer, booked doll works, booked my first proper photo shoot, and we done it on the beach, and it was like I felt seen. Getting upset again. Only that, they encouraged me to take part in fashion shows, put me in touch with a guy doing a fashion show in Circo in Liverpool, and it just felt like, wow, they think I'm good enough. Maybe I am. I get so upset. Helped me get my collection. Wow, didn't know this would be so emotional. They got the collection. They got the Sin Sundays collection stocked in Ocean Beach Boutique. It was Ocean Beach then, O Beach now. Looking back now, I don't know if they realised how much confidence they instilled in me, and I've told them many times how grateful I am, but yeah, and it clearly meant a lot to me. Still getting emotional after all this time, so thank you again to Billy and Chris. They helped me believe that my designs belonged in Ibiza, and it was another connection to the island, and it just made me feel like if my designs had a place in Ibiza, maybe I did too. I haven't brought any makeup with me because I wasn't expecting to get this emotional, so let's keep it real. My tear-stained face. Who wouldn't think an episode talking about Ibiza? I'd have tears streaming down my face. When I look back now, I don't think Ibiza changed my life overnight or anything like that, but what it did do was spark something inside me, something that was already there. It was just dormant inside me. It showed me that there was a bigger life out there if I was brave enough to step into it. I started making decisions that were more aligned with who I truly was. I realised I was happier on my own than staying in situations that no longer felt right and hadn't for a while, and it just gave me like the confidence and the boost to stand up for myself and put myself first. I started creating more. I started taking myself more seriously and not listening to people who kept me down in the past, because there were other people out there who believed in me, and that allowed me to believe in myself. Here I go again. I started believing a creative life was possible. I didn't have to have a typical life if I wasn't happy with that. And shortly after, I started pursuing opportunities in television and media. I started building a side business, and I started moving towards a life that felt more like mine. Looking back, it's impossible not to see the connection. Ibiza didn't hand me those opportunities, but it gave me the confidence to go out and start looking for them. It also taught me to not let other people's opinions define my experiences, and I've never forgotten this lesson. Before my first trip, so many people tried to put me off. You won't like Ibiza, you don't like drugs, it's not your scene, you'll hate it, that's all there is. Yeah, those things certainly do go on and exist on the island, I'm not denying that, but you don't need them. I didn't need them. They were never what I connected with the island, and I didn't need to. I never needed anything other than the island to feel its magic. Imagine if I'd listened. Imagine if I allowed someone else's opinion to define my reality. I'd have missed 18 years of memories, opportunities and experiences. That's a lesson I've carried with me ever since. Experience things for yourself and trust your own instincts. Ibiza has changed a lot, and so have I. These days I like the calmer side. I like to stay in Santa Eulalia. I adore the concept hotel group hotels. I spend time exploring the quieter corners of the island. I'm learning Spanish. I'm looking at properties. I'm researching potential boutique locations. At 19, I was jumping up and down on the pucker up boat. Now it's a totally different story, but a good one. I wouldn't say how I feel about Ibiza has changed. I just love it differently. Every time I visit, it feels like a new adventure, but the same place. Again, it's hard to explain. It never feels like the same holiday twice. And people often ask, don't I get bored returning to the same place? And the answer is a resounding no, because I'm not returning to the same place. The island changes. I change. Every visit brings something new. For an island that isn't particularly large, it's taken me a lifetime to explore it. I think that's part of the magic. People often ask me why I love Ibiza so much, and honestly, after all these years, I still struggle to answer that question. Not to answer it, but to explain it. I could go on forever, but to admit I can't make them feel what I feel, because it's not about the clubs, the sunshine, or even all of the memories. It's about how I feel when I'm there. Ibiza gave me permission to be myself long before I learned how to do that anywhere else. It taught me that creativity wasn't something to hide, that being different wasn't something to apologise for. And 18 years later, that thread still runs through everything I create at the Life of O'Reilly. If I was given any advice from this story, it would be, don't let other people decide what something is before you've experienced it for yourself. Follow those intuitive nudges and do what feels right for you. Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. Follow what lights you up. And it'll lead you down a path that one day you'll look back and you'll see how everything just connected and took you in the right direction. At least that's been my experience. And don't be afraid to step into a bigger life if that's what's calling you. I truly believe little by little, day by day, what's meant for you will find its way. Thank you for watching Behind the Scenes. I'm Heather and this is the Life of O'Reilly. Right, let's book a flight to Ibiza.